Good Monday morning, early game crew. We are live. I am at least in a mostly vacant Radio Row here in Atlanta, Georgia. It is day one of SEC Media Days, brought to you by Lawyer Lisa, Game Day Men's Health, and Lexington Discount Homes. My partners in crime, Preston Thorne, Jen Jensen, back at the home studios in beautiful Columbia, South Carolina. It is the quiet before the storm, Preston Thorne. There is behind me, if you're watching on our YouTube stream, and from the camera feed where I am, you can see where there is pretty much like the ballroom for press conferences. It is empty right now. It is not very well lit in there right now, but here in just a few short hours, the hectic nature and mania of SEC Media Days will begin. And Preston, I hope you didn't have to walk a half a mile to get to your location. Jen, you as well. I hope you guys are much less sweaty than I am, because I broke a sweat before 6 a.m. That's not something I'm accustomed to doing, but we're here, we're ready to roll, and we're just that much closer to college football season.
Well, Elijah, they say all the great ones get a sweat before the game actually starts. So you just arrived to the gym a little bit earlier. You got staked out. You have your position claimed for where you want to go. And that's what the great ones do. You're ready to go. You want to go into a game dry, like old boxing cliche. You don't want to be dry before you go in the game. So you're sweaty. You're ready to go. Your juices are going. The endorphins are flowing. You're ready to put this thing on. I'm excited for you.
I'm ready. Yeah, no, it's got the adrenaline kicking in. I'm sitting here in front of a bunch of decals here at the College Football Hall of Fame, and one of my favorite scores of all time is painted right in front of me, of 222-0 when Georgia Tech beat Cumberland College in 1916. So a nice tidbit of college football history here to get the football juices flowing. Preston, in your day, first I want to ask you if you remember in your day who represented South Carolina. And if you're like, Elijah, how would you know? Well, the SEC did hand us out a packet of a lot of need to know information about media guides, parking, all that kind of stuff. But at the very back, they have a history of every single year of SEC Media Days in which players the schools brought. So I have that available to me. Do you remember?
2004, did we bring 3 people or 4 people?
In 2004, South Carolina brought 2. Only 2.
Ooh. Okay, now this is I know one of the people that they brought, and I know, yes, I do know both of them. South Carolina in 2004 brought offensive lineman John Strickland.
Correct.
Okay, good choice. John is one of my favorite teammates. I played against Strick every day from the state of Georgia. Good choice. And they also brought defensive end George Goss.
Yes, 2 for 2. Well done.
I do remember going through this exercise, but here's the issue. George Goss is in a contest with Lenora Sellers for the under as far as words per interview.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, and this is not, but here's the thing with George. And George is one of my favorite teammates. Shout out to George Goss Conway, one of the most freakiest athletes I've ever seen in my life. I believe he was the state's triple jump state champion at his height and size, playing defensive end. That just lets you know what type of athlete he was. George was not a talker. George is not a talker. George doesn't talk in our personal lives. He's in a group chat. He shows up maybe once a month. He's always there. He might throw a little something in. But if George is around, George is seen, not heard. So I would love the reels of hearing what George actually said to anybody during media days, because I feel like that was a bad, even though he was the best player on the defense, debatable, because we had some dudes on there. But yeah, not a talker, to say the least.
Okay, yeah, and Lenore's also very efficient with his words.
That's the word. That's what I was looking for. Efficiency.
Very, very word efficient. Doesn't need many of them to be able to, give his point across. But yeah, but you nailed it. Two for 2. Was this? I mean, obviously you're in radio right now. People, you're listening to Preston Thorne in his current state, and obviously talking is something that you get paid to do. Was this something that you would have wanted to do if Lou Holtz approached you and asked you if you wanted to speak for media days and represent South Carolina? Was that something that at ages 18 to 22 you would have been eager to do?
No, I would not have been particularly interested, especially 04. I was coming off an injury. I was a little bit jaded towards the whole college athletics thing. So I might not have been, I might have got up there. They would have had to maybe pull me off stage or sponsor my mic or something like that. I might have went on a tangent that was not needed for the time. I usually did pretty good with the press. Kerry Thorpe coached us up very, very well, but I was not particularly interested at that time.
Oh man, I think at that age too, my thing is I wouldn't have been shy of talking, but between ages of 18 to 22, the likelihood of me saying something very stupid that would have gotten me pulled away from a microphone, dangerously high, or maybe dropping an F-bomb. I think my censorship, my self-censorship at that age, not particularly great, not necessarily my strong suit. But I think I definitely at that age, I think, I would have loved to have done it. But at the same time, I think my coaches would have known better at that point.
Yeah, and especially the ages of 18, 22, you're very convicted in the things that you believe. Even though you're very dumb, you're very sure. You're very sure of what you believe, even though it's more than likely wrong. But you are very sure of it. So, yeah, the chances of saying something either stupid and or controversial are high.
Yeah, blindly saying dumb stuff was a forte of mine, and I really, I wish I didn't have the internet at that point in time, but that helped me grow up into who I am today. A lot of people who are responsible with their words and being able to talk, obviously coaches who've been doing this for a while, and today we have a very interesting opening day lineup. Obviously, the South Carolina Gamecocks are featured. Shane Beamer is second in the batting order, if you will. I know the All-Star game's here in town this week too, so some baseball references will be probably abundant from my end. But Shane Beamer is going to be hitting second today. Brian Kelly's going to lead us off after, of course, Greg Sankey speaks to really open everything up. And then after Brian Kelly at LSU, Shane Beamer will speak. Then we'll have a nice little bit of a break, followed by Lane Kiffin and then from Ole Miss, and then Clark Lee from Vanderbilt to round out the coaches. So today we'll focus in on a lot of the four teams. Obviously, we focus in on South Carolina every day, but a little more emphasis too today on maybe LSU, Ole Miss, and Vanderbilt. And those three teams I have as our theme for Old Man versus Analytics. But Preston Thorne, is there anything you care to hear, really in particular, with the coaches speaking today, something that you would like to see, or at least see addressed, and then maybe if you have to, read between the lines within coach speak that we oftentimes have to do in this medium?
Well, we know a lot of the things that we are going to get. We're going to get a lot of cliches. We're going to get a lot of generalities and things of that nature. But for each of the coaches, I would love to hear them address their current attitude towards the new college football state. What do they think? Are they in favor of it? Do they have any possible solutions? Do they think that things are on the up and up? I would love to hear what they actually think about the industry that they're involved in. We won't get that, I'm sure, but that's what I would love to hear.
Yeah, that would certainly be nice. I think that's going to be really the hot topic too, especially when Greg Sankey speaks. There's going to be a lot of questions about, unionization, or not even unionization, more like collective bargaining and the NIL clearinghouse. Like, we now have more terms in our lexicon to discuss going into this offseason. And just when you thought you're done with learning terms like NIL, transfer portal, we've a whole section of college football fans has been introduced to the services of Deloitte. Lawsuit City is now a firmly established town with a mayor and a thriving population, one of the fastest growing towns in America, and the NCAA seemingly has done a fantastic job of keeping Lawsuit City and its Chamber of Commerce and a lot of business. But that's a lot of extra stuff that we didn't necessarily have to worry about in previous SEC media days. But I'm really curious, Preston, to hear from a football standpoint too, what these coaches think about the fit of some of these transfer players. Obviously, Ole Miss is that team in particular that I think may be the biggest question mark overall in the SEC. Lane recruits really well. They have a couple of difference makers coming back on defense, but offensively, that's where Coach Kiffin, hangs his hat, or hangs his visor, if you will. I don't think I've ever seen him wear an actual hat, but he hangs his visor on that. And offensively, last year, they had some dudes. They had a quarterback that went first round in the NFL draft. They have to replace him. They have to replace Trey Harris, who I thought was the best receiver in the SEC for most of the year last year, barring, some of the injuries that he sustained. I'm really curious to hear about how he feels about his really a new batch of players, and potentially how they all fit together in his offense. I'm in terms of all the coaches today. We listen to Shane all the time, and we're all going to be glued in on what Shane has to say. But I think my ears really perked up a little more to hear exactly what Lane Kiffin thinks about his football team, and trying to read between the lines of what he's got coming back, because last year I think it was a pretty disappointing season for them to have the roster they did, miss out on the playoff, and now really have to take another swing at it with a really brand new group of guys who haven't really played much together.
Well, we were all locked in on Ole Miss for the idea of Juice being there last year, and so that's why, as a local story, we wanted to see what would happen with that. And when you mentioned that you mentioned all the dudes that they had, and statistically he was not one of them. I think that was very interesting for us. So I haven't been as focused on Ole Miss last year, so I will be listening to what Lane has to say. And you just don't know which Lane's going to show up. Is it going to be, Zen Lane, where he's done his yoga classes and he's hung out with the dog, or is it going to be Lane that has a little a little fire to him, and maybe he talked to Feinbaum a little bit earlier and he wants to set some things off. So we'll see which Lane actually shows up.
Yeah, that's maybe you can give us an indication as to where this Ole Miss team actually is. And I love Clark Lee as a coach. I think he is really the perfect guy for the Vanderbilt job. That's not an easy job to have. But in terms of energetic speakers, if you're looking for a place to, if you've got the SEC network on and you're watching all these press conferences, if you're looking for the perfect time to take a nap, my man Clark Lee might be the perfect anecdote for that.
Well, to carry your baseball analogy, they have him batting cleanup, and usually that's a good thing in baseball. But does that mean that it's time to clean up when Clark Lee gets on the stand at his position?
Yeah, maybe that's the time to go eat. I know they serve a really good lunch here. Last year in Dallas, it was fantastic. This might be the good time to go, take that lunch, or if you're me, maybe that could be the nice nap time. I'm looking over behind me right now. There are a couple of nice cushy corner spots here in this entire ballroom setup. That might be it. And I say this lovingly. I think Clark Lee's a fantastic coach, very nice dude. He just isn't the most energetic speaker. So that might be the best time to take a nap. And then with Brian Kelly too, to lead things off. What are the odds, Preston Thorne, he fakes a Southern accent again?
Oh, I think he's done with that. This is what you may not know about me, Elijah. I have a very high level of respect for Brian Kelly as a football coach. I think he's been tremendous at every single stop. He is an awesome coach, but he's very hard to defend because he's just not very likable.
Lower on the likability scale, that's for sure. But he kicks things off today after Greg Sankey speaks to get things started here at SEC Media Days. Our coverage here at SEC Media Days brought to you by Lawyer Lisa, Game Day Men's Health, and Lexington Discount Homes. There's one player here. We talked to the coaches that are representing their teams, but there's one player here representing the Gamecocks who will be called upon to really replace a ton of production from last season. This player may or may not have a similar career arc of our very own Preston Thorne. We'll tell you who that is, and Preston will offer us his unique perspective on this player's opportunity next on the Early Game.
No accidents to report right now. It's a great way to start off your Monday morning. So we do welcome that and hope the rest of the morning goes well. And as far as that forecast is concerned, yep, we're looking for a high today of 94, maybe a thunderstorm or two possible later this afternoon. Tomorrow, much of the same, 92 for the high, with those chances for afternoon thunderstorms and kind of in that pattern for most of the week. We will be in the low to mid 90s with those afternoon thunderstorm possibilities. Right now, though, we are sitting at 76 on 107.5 The Game.
SEC Media Day coverage. One of our sponsors, Lawyer Lisa. Need to talk estate planning, elder law, elder care, or probate? Call Lawyer Lisa. That's at 803-563-5163 or go to lawyerlisa.com. One of the players that's representing South Carolina today at SEC Media Days, a player that when you talk about guys who need to replace or help replace a lot of production from one of the strengths of the team last year, the defensive line, you look at Nick Barrett. And Nick Barrett gets to come here to Atlanta, gets to make the trip, gets to talk about this year's team. And he's one of the biggest, along with other guys like Brian Thomas Jr., Desmond Umeozulu, Judge Collier, Monkel Goodwine. Preston, you were kind of in a situation similar to Nick Barrett. You've had to redshirt. Nick Barrett had to redshirt last year. You had limited snaps. You had experience more so the more you got into your college career. I feel like out of all the players that's on this team, maybe one of the ones that you can relate to most might be the big defensive tackle that they're bringing here to Atlanta this week.
When you said this, I was thinking about this, and I hadn't really made the same consideration. But yes, there are similarities to our career paths. He did redshirt early. Later into the season, I redshirted at the beginning of my season. But there was this idea of how do you grow into these various roles that you're expected to participate in each year. Sometimes you're expected to be, for myself, my first year that I was playing after my redshirt year, I was a backup to Langston Moore. Initially, at the beginning of that season, I was a backup just because if Langston needed a break, I could go in there and give him a break, but the coach was going to be quick to pull me out. Later on in that season, as I progressed and played pretty well, I became a true depth piece, whereas if Langston wasn't playing well, Preston could go in and get some snaps, or they might let me play for extended snaps so that Langston could get even more rest and be at his top. And so there's various levels of the depth that you create. Later on in my career, I attained the starting position, got different things. So players have different roles throughout their careers. Everybody's not automatically a starter. And this is sort of, honestly, more the natural progression of a college athlete's career.
It is. But I think what you do with that opportunity also can really help define your career. And the opportunity that Nick's got ahead of him right now is a chance to battle for that starting spot. But I think one thing you kind of touched on too about the depth of the teams that you were on, acting as a depth piece, maybe can prepare you to be part of that depth later on. I think maybe one of the strengths of this defensive line can be an ability to platoon swap. Now, last year, a guy like Monkel Goodwine is one of the perfect examples. A guy that whenever that first group of defensive linemen needs to sit for a couple plays or maybe a series, they were able to come in and be pretty admirable when it came to run stopping. Now, they're going to be called upon to do a lot more during the game. And maybe guys like Nick Barrett and Monkel are in that same boat from instead of having to just spell Tonka Hemingway and TJ Sanders for a few plays. Now you're the one taking a majority of those series. From just a conditioning standpoint, too, how much do you kind of have to up your game to be able to get ready for a spot like that to where instead of just being the one who's the speller, you're the one who needs to be spelled during the game.
Yeah, well, there's obviously going to be playing more snaps, but I think you're always in condition for playing more snaps. More so, you have to prepare for the mental toll that it actually takes to know that you're the person that when the chips are down or when the play's on the line or when something needs to play, that you're going to be the person instead of going up and like instead of standing on the sideline like, yeah, guys, get him. Go get him, guys. It's a little bit of a different type of attitude that you have to embrace as you go into the season as somebody who's expected to be a starter and not somebody who's expected to be a role player.
Yeah, and looking at Nick, like in terms of trying to find clues about how maybe he could be in an elevated role. I mean, limited snaps last year, which of course he redshirted. So he was able to keep this year of eligibility, just 85 snaps last year, kind of over the course of those 5 games to keep him eligible to play this year. But I mean, if you look at the Pro Football Focus numbers, still pretty decent grades overall. I mean, 62 on defense, which is solid, a 75 tackle, solid, and a respectable pass rush grade as well. But my favorite thing about him, Preston Thorne, he's a biggin.
He
6'3",
is
322.
He does qualify for the biggin index. Yes, I noticed that as soon as I looked at it, I said, oh, I put a star by him. He is a biggin. But here's the concept, Elijah. And this is something I've come to think about in reflection on my career. I don't know if everybody wants to hear this, but here's what my observation is. Are you ready?
Oh, I'm ready.
Okay. My talent level was good enough to be a starter on a 6-5 team, but also good enough to be a backup on a 9-win team. What does this mean? My talent level was here at 9. I was good enough to be a backup on that team. When I was a starter, we won 6 games, and I think that is an indication. And I think even more so, unfortunately, that it may put us in the Nick Barrett situation. What is your interpretation of that reflection that I've had?
It makes sense. I think what you're evaluating was your ceiling as a player.
Yes.
Which is if you are the starting nose tackle or defensive tackle, then you could still be on a defense good enough to win you 6 games. But I think what you are kind of evaluating yourself as is the perfect supplementary player. And then let's say Nick Barrett's the same way. If he is the same way, what you're really going to bank on is having a defensive line full of guys that are solid enough to do maybe some of the little things or things like run stopping, right? Guys that maybe are specialists in run stopping. I know Nick Barrett has an interception in his career. He picked off Tyler Buckner in that Gator Bowl, for those who remember. That was a fun play, but don't bank on him doing that all the time. But if he could be a solid run stopper, and then you can maybe leave the pass rushing to, obviously, Dylan Stewart, and hoping guys like Brian Thomas Jr. and Desmond Umeozulu are not the same prototype of player that you kind of described, where they're edge rushers that are really good players that get the majority of the snaps on 9 or 10 win teams, then I think they could still be fine. But I think your evaluation, at least of your career, can be the same way. You can have a couple of those guys on your defensive line, but how you work as a unit might be a little more valuable overall.
Yeah, but here's the thing, and this is what I keep coming back to, and this is why it's my biggest question of the season. Because when you looked at the team, the guys that left, those dudes that played 1,500 snaps, Tonka, TJ,
yep,
they were ballers. They were good enough to obviously be NFL guys, good enough to play on 9-win teams. They needed those two, but you also needed Boogie and DeAndre, who were just a step below those guys, who were very good, obviously, but they weren't the starters. The two ballers were Tonka and TJ, and it's a slight skill level difference. And what I'm wondering is where Nick Barrett, Gabriel Monkel, where do they fall in line? Will they be more like Tonka and TJ, or will they even hopefully be more like Boogie and DeAndre?
Which, and I guess it'd be fair to expect a regression based off of that logic too. Not just that logic. I think that's when you lose as much as you did on the defensive line, like regression is something that's just going to happen. You cannot stop it. That is something that is absolutely just going to happen. I think the degree in which you regress in that position group, that might be the thing that we have to monitor throughout the year. And that's why I think last week we were both kind of really honing in so much on what opponent rushing totals look like for teams that made the playoff and whether or not this unit can get you there. And of course, regression, as Preston Thorne knows, now that he is a big analytics guy now, a big term in the analytics community. And with the Gamecocks being featured today at SEC Media Days, so is LSU, Ole Miss, and Vanderbilt. 3 teams that are on Carolina's schedule. What do we know about these teams? Preston Thorne plays analytics version of Rosetta Stone next in Old Man versus Analytics here on the early game.
Still moving fairly well. No accidents to report at this time. And we certainly welcome that. We want your Monday morning to go as smoothly as possible. Forecast wise, we are looking for a high today of about 94, 92 tomorrow, 92 on Wednesday. Each and every day, we're looking for those afternoon thunderstorms to pop up. Certainly not necessarily a washout, but we just are in that summer like pattern. Right now, though, 76 on 107.5 The Game.
The Game's coverage of SEC Media Day is brought to you by Game Day Men's Health. Game Day Men's Health Columbia offers convenient, expert-backed care for all men looking to feel and perform their best, hopefully like the Gamecocks do on the football field this year. Call 803-919-7886 to book an appointment. Preston Thorne, are you ready to rage against the machine?
Give me some of these numbers, you nerd. I'm ready.
Are you ready? Are you ready to shove me in a locker?
Yes, I am.
I'm wearing my blue light glasses, so I do look a little nerdier than normal. So I'm looking the part today, and I'm ready for you to tell me to shut up. So on today, Old Man versus the Analytics, Preston Thorne, I'm centering it around the three other teams that are speaking here at SEC Media Days that appear on Carolina's schedule. And we'll start with LSU. And the biggest mystery, really the biggest mystery man defensively in the SEC the last couple of years has been Harold Perkins. Now follow me here. In 2022, Perkins had a pass rush grade of 90.9 on Pro Football Focus. But over the last couple of years, it's gone down, 72.8 in 2023, and then down to 57 in the 4 games he played last year before having to miss the rest of the year. But there's something that's changed there as well, and that, Preston, is his percentage of snaps in the box increased all 3 years, not on the line, but in the box, compared to his snaps on the defensive line. Does this mean he's more effective lining up on the line of scrimmage as a pass rusher as opposed to being on the edge?
Okay, I like the case study here. Harold Perkins has been around for so long, it feels like, and he burst on the scene, and everybody was so excited about him. I think Harold Perkins is more of a liability to the defense than he may actually be an asset. I'm not sure how well he does in coverage. I think that's why they might try and put him closer to the box. But I'm also not sure how physical he wants to be when he's inside the box. And so I think they're struggling to figure out ways that they can use him and whatever talent he has. I would say those numbers, yes, those are good numbers. And I think they do indicate his strength is being closer to the ball.
Yeah, and that's one thing too, because his size, he's maybe not built like a defensive lineman. He's a little smaller, and that's kind of been, I guess, one of the knocks on him is he's a little bit of a tweener. But that first year, he just showed so many flashes. But then the defense for LSU just got consistently worse over time too.
As has he.
Yeah,
and we're still living off the fame that he had his freshman year. And at a certain point, you have to feel like, okay, that was great. That was then. This is now. What is his production going to be coming up?
And now the good news for LSU is that Whit Weeks had a breakout year at linebacker. And, of course, when you're really talking about this LSU team, I think we all know the offense is going to be good. I think whether or not this defense can hold opponents to under 20 points per game can be what keeps them from playing in the college football playoff yet again under Brian Kelly. But Whit Weeks was credited with 56 stops. All right, so just a tackle made that constituted a failure for the offense in terms of success rate. And I did the math, so you don't have to. That's over 4 per game. However, he still has a missed tackle rate of 12%, and I think the benchmark is 10%. But that should improve his junior year and is poised for an All-American type season for LSU.
that can improve his junior year. You want people to improve as far as missing tackles, but he might want to put it. I would love to see the rates on a guy who I think missed a lot of tackles last year, but also caused a lot of havoc last year, and that was Debo Williams. Right, Debo.
Mhm.
We always joke that he was a heat-seeking missile. Whether or not he might hit his own opponent or the other team, it was maybe a toss-up. But you needed a guy like there to go in there and mess things up. So that might be actually this dude's role in the game. I wouldn't pay attention to that missed tackle rate that much for him specifically.
Debo Williams last year, you ask and you shall receive. Missed tackle rate of 14.7%.
See? Look at that. Maybe my eyes actually do match the analytics. Okay.
They do. I think so. I think there's a little bit of a marriage here between eyes and analytics. That's what we're here to do.
Maybe I'm liking these numbers a little bit. Continue.
I think so. I think so. But now we'll move on to Ole Miss. Now, the biggest thing for me, Preston, is Ole Miss needing to replace Trey Harris. As good as people thought Jackson Dart was last year, I think Trey Harris was the guy that made that offense roll. So they need to replace him. He ain't walking through that door. And they got Harrison Wallace in the transfer portal from Penn State. And 88.7% of his snaps were out wide. His average depth of target was 13.5 yards. Harrison Wallace also caught 54.5% of the contested targets, only dropped 4 of his 77 targets, while at Penn State last year for a receiving group that was underwhelming, and that's why none of them are back this year. He is an ideal fit for Lane Kiffin's offense to replace the type of production Trey Harris got him last year.
Elijah, you ever ate food that was unseasoned and then somebody brought you like some salt or pepper or maybe even a little bit of hot sauce or something along those lines?
Oh, I remember my first time eating Tony Chachere's. Yes, absolutely. I remember my first seasoning experience, sir.
That is how this receiver is going to feel in his Ole Miss offense compared to being at Penn State last year. The Penn State offense, dreadfully boring, very, very unseasoned. And he's going to go down to Lane, and Lane's going to be running all these cool plays and tricks and formations and routes. I predict that this, and what's his name? I forget his name.
Oh, Harrison Wallace.
I predict Harrison Wallace will have a breakout season just because if he was able to be halfway decent in a very rote, average, boring Penn State offense, I think he'll do great at Ole Miss.
Now, if we're making up our own analytics here, 700-plus receiving yards in Penn State's offense last year would equate to what in a pass?
I'd put that over. I pay 1,100. Easy.
Okay. So we have sliding scales for everything here.
Yeah, I'd say 1,100. Man, that offense was terrible last year. Even they admitted last year. I think it was last year that they fired the OC because they weren't throwing the ball downfield and they were still winning these games. And yes, it was last year because my guy
they brought in Andy Kotelnicki.
Yeah, James Franklin was saying, "Oh, I don't know whose job it is to throw the ball." Yeah, and then he fired the guy after that. That was see, Elijah, you're about to get me started. I didn't know this was going to happen, but here we are. Last year was the year where James Franklin chastised the reporter for asking a legit question about why they didn't throw the ball downfield, and then the next week or 2 weeks later, they fired the OC. That was last year, correct?
That would be, I think that was late in 2023.
Okay.
And they fired the OC and then brought in Kotelnicki last year. And they threw downfield a little bit more, but they will never be confused with a Mike Leach offense.
I say 700 in Penn State is 1,100 at Ole Miss.
Oh, I love it. Say, okay, yeah, I can agree with that. Yeah, I mean, 700 it almost should count as a 1,000-plus yard season almost anywhere else. Vanderbilt's an interesting case study this year, too. Diego Pavia gets a lot of the love, but I think the best player on that team is tight end Eli Stowers. I think you'll get a kick out of this, Preston. Lined up on the line of scrimmage 21% of the time at tight end. Was in the slot 72% of the time. His average depth of target was only a shade over 7 yards, but he picked up over 7.5 yards on average after the catch. And his yards per route run is 2.43. And for those who don't know, that is very high. It's very efficient. And he only dropped 1 of his 67 targets. Oh, and the pass block grade, 71.5. He might be the most complete tight end in the entire SEC.
All of these dudes need to send a tithe to your guy, a guy you know very well, Jimmy Graham. They all need need to send a tithe to Jimmy Graham every month and say thank you for recreating the tight end position so that now we can play this slot hybrid-esque type of deal and we can be these guys who can take advantage of our freakish athletic ability because these guys, they're tall, they're strong, they're matchup nightmares, right? They're bigger than your small guys. They're faster than your big guys. It's almost impossible to cover these guys. This is type of dude you want on your offense.
Yeah, I mean, I think he maybe, as people have him mocked in the first round of the NFL draft, I think he actually might end up being underrated. I think he's probably the best player in the SEC that maybe some people just aren't talking about. And we love hypotheticals here on this program. We'll kind of shift gears into things that we're talking about on the field, actual football. But last week we debuted First Down for Your Life, and it was a fun running back discussion. But we have a tweak for it, and we'll tell you what that is next on the early game. The games coverage here at SEC Media Days brought to you by Lexington Discount Homes. Lexington Discount Homes, one of South Carolina's leading retailers of manufactured homes. Just go to LexingtonDiscountHomes.com to find out more. Pretty simple. And Preston Thorne, I think we have a pretty simple hypothetical here. And we debuted it last week for First Down for Your Life with Gamecock running backs, specifically not named George Rogers or Marcus Lattimore. Today it's time to see who we trust through the air. How does that sound to you?
I like it. I'm ready for it because I think there's going to be some surprise mentions amongst this group of guys.
I have a surprise mention for you. I'm very excited to break out here. But here's the situation, right? It's 4th and 15, and you have to connect on a pass for a first down to save your life. You're only allowed one target to pass the ball. And it has to be a former Gamecock wide receiver. It cannot be Sidney Rice, Alshon Jeffrey, or Sterling Sharp. Who are you taking, Preston Thorne, with your life on the line?
Well, my life on the line, I think I'm going to take somebody who I can throw the ball and they can get me a little bit more yak.
Okay.
I'm going to go for the yak. I'm going to go of recent times. I think I'm going to go with none other than Deebo Samuel.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. You can throw it a little short of the sticks, and he's a good enough runner to break tackles, use that speed to get to the first down marker. Now, it's philosophically, when it is 4th and 15, maybe not just for our life, but in a football game, when you see a coach throw the ball or call for a play and the ball is thrown maybe 5 or 6 yards short of the sticks, does it make you mad, or are you one of those that you get it? You get what the play is trying to do. You're trying to get yards after the catch, and it just doesn't work.
Okay, this might get actually nerdy. So 4th and 15, I'm not mad at it. 4th and 6, I am seething at it. So 4th and 15, if you throw a 12-yard pass and you don't get to the sticks, I get it. You don't have enough time. If it's 4th and 8 and you throw a 5-yard pass, or better yet, as some of our offensive coordinators have done in the past, you maybe throw a pass sideways. Oh, that'll get my ire. So there's a little bit of difference there, but I understand the point.
Okay. See, I'm one of this forever. I used to be really mad whenever it was like a 4th down and a pass was short of the sticks, regardless of where the ball is spotted, right? Or how far you have to go to get the first down. I used to be so mad seeing coaches have quarterbacks throw it short, but then the older I get, the more I watch, I kind of understand, maybe like on a 4th and 15, like a crossing route where you think if you hit the receiver in stride, he's just going to win that foot race to the sticks, right? And of course, a lot of this is knowing your personnel too. But I've grown a little more lenient of throwing it short of the sticks on 4th down. Just the older I get.
Yes, but when you see that crossing route, it is demoralizing as a fan when he catches the ball at 6 yards and he gets tackled for it, and it's now turnover on downs and you were 8 yards short. That's demoralizing.
That is demoralizing, and I'm sitting at a table next to some of my friends from Nashville who I used to work with, and they're very familiar with throwing the ball short of the end zone on a play where you have to have it to win it. And there's a defining moment of Kevin Dyson stretching his arm and being 1 yard short. And no, fans in that neck of the woods still don't forget that. But for me, Preston Thorne, I think if I can't choose Alshon Jeffrey, Sidney Rice, or Sterling Sharp, my X factor one here, Bryan Edwards. Because I want someone who is as sure-handed, who makes a contested catch, and that guy has made some of the more freakishly contested catches I have seen at the collegiate level. I wouldn't mind just running him down the sideline and just throwing it up there and having him go get it.
That was actually one of the things that I thought about. That catch against Ole Miss is still to this day one of the best catches I've ever seen. And he made several of those throughout his career. I made one against Louisiana Lafayette that saved our lives that season. So I can definitely see just being like, hey, Bryan, go make us a play, please.
Yes, and that might be me, right? I also like Kenny McKinley is another guy that came to mind in terms of just being reliable. I think I can rely upon Kenny McKinley. Obviously, the career records and stats speak for themselves, but I think I'm actually leaning to Bryan Edwards and trying to think outside the box a little bit. I love good contested catch wide receivers. On 4th and 15, my life's on the line. I don't think I want to throw it short of the sticks. So we're chucking it downfield here, Preston Thorne, to save me. And if I have to go out swinging by letting it loose downfield, I think that's what I'm going to do.
Well, that's a good pick, but I'm interested in seeing what other folks have to say. Text in, obviously, let us know what you think, because this is a segment that we can see a lot of different names coming in, because I also think much in the line of Debo, I got another guy that played in my era that might be very good in that same time.
The first one on the Firehouse Subs text line, it's got to be Pops. I love it. I love it. We have plenty more that we'll get to. We'll get your reactions and a whole lot more. Hour number 2 coming up with plenty of SEC Media Day coverage. That's next here on the Early Game.
Hey, it's Jen for Carolina Stone Craftsman just outside Columbia in Chapin. We did a little bit of demolition in a couple of our bathrooms, just a little bit of remodeling. Needed countertops for the new cabinetry that we'd gotten. And somebody recommended, hey, why don't you go check out Carolina Stone Craftsman? So glad we did. The first experience, the showroom, it is amazing. And we learned quickly that from a customer idea to the fabrication to the installation, every step of that process was meticulous. They were so helpful. We weren't sure exactly what countertops we were looking for, but again, they guided us through the process, and we're so thrilled with the result. If you were looking for countertops for your kitchen or bath, I do encourage you to reach out to Carolina Stone Craftsman. And of course, tell them that Jen Jensen sent you. They're family owned and operated. They're here, they're local. Carolina Stone Craftsman, just beyond Columbia in Chapin. And I assure you, beyond your expectations. CarolinaStoneCraftsman.com. I-20 westbound around exit 39, so making your way to towards Augusta. There is a slowdown there due to an accident. I-20 westbound there at exit 39. Forecast for today, 94 will be our high, 92 tomorrow and Wednesday. But those afternoon thunderstorms, those are a distinct possibility for the next few days, so keep that in mind. But we're starting off the morning a little bit warm, but it is July 14th. 76 currently on 107.5 The Game.
It is day one of SEC Media Days here in Atlanta. I'm Elijah Campbell. He's Preston Thorne. She's Jen Jensen, back at the studios in Columbia, South Carolina, and the Firehouse Subs text line very reactive this morning for first down for your life. If you had to have a prediction, Preston, who the most popular choice is, obviously the receivers in question, you cannot choose Sidney Rice, Alshon Jeffrey, or Sterling Sharp. If you had to guess right now who the most popular one is, who would you guess?
This is why this is a great answer. Maybe Kenny McKinley.
Kenny McKinley's got one.
Okay, so he's not the most popular. So who's going to be the most popular right now?
Right now, it is a tie between Robert Brooks and Bruce Ellington.
You know what? I'm going to be honest. Both of those names slipped my mind, and that's shameful. That's shameful. Obviously, Robert Brooks being a legend of the era of his time and of Gamecocks, and obviously Bruce being from the Low Country. That's a shame on me. That's my bad, Coach. I'll go touch the wall for that one.
You see, the best part about Bruce Ellington here is not only can he do first down for your life, you maybe can trust him with shot for your life as well.
a
good hooper.
Yes, very better than good. He was a player on the team.
He was a really good hooper.
Yeah, the thing is, good hoopers are like guys that you saw him play in high school, and they're like, man, he played basketball too. It's like, oh, really? That's cute. But no, Bruce was a actual point guard for the college basketball team. That's crazy.
An incredibly gifted athlete. I mean, if we're ranking like great athletes in the history of South Carolina athletics, you'd be remiss if you left Bruce Ellington off the list. Steve is on the phone line. Steve has some thoughts on first down for your life. Steve, you cannot pick Sidney Rice, Alshon Jeffrey, or Sterling Sharp. Who are you trusting to save your life on this play?
I'm going to go with the Wiggler. If it made me miss and I was just watching the game, I'm going with Ace Sanders.
That's the first Ace Sanders pick. I will say, first Ace Sanders pick. And if you want someone who's getting yards after catch, Steve, you have found the correct player right there, because Ace was a magician in terms of escaping crowds of large dudes trying to tackle him.
Yes, sir. That's my man.
Absolutely. Steve, appreciate your call,
sir.
We got that one down. That's the first one for Ace Sanders. Robert Brooks is taking the lead right now, so he's got 3. So before we move on to some SEC Media Day stuff here, I will say we got Brian Edwards, Tim Frisbee. I'll count my Brian Edwards one, too. That was one of the texts. I'll count my own here. Brian Edwards, Tim Frisbee, Robert Brooks, Shi Smith, Bruce Ellington, Zola Davis, Kenny McKinley, Troy Williamson, and Ace Sanders all selected Robert Brooks with the most so far with 3. So 803-404-6100 on our Firehouse Subs text line. Or if you want to be like Steve and call in, you're more than welcome to do that.
Shout out to Zola Davis, a Low Country legend, and also maybe one of the coolest names I've ever heard.
Zola Davis, by name alone, I would like to trust him on 4th and 15.
Way up on the cool name meter.
Yes, very high on the cool name meter or index. And speaking of indexes, we like to create that type of stuff on this show, Preston Thorne. And last night, I have created an SEC coaching hot seat index where I have broken them off into tiers, okay? And I need you to see if you agree with me. You're going to check my work here. This is almost like proofreading.
Okay.
Right? So I've broken them into tiers, right? There's Blazing Inferno, which is the hottest seat imaginable. Number 2 is the Fire Marshal is on call. 3, room temperature, mostly for guys. It's maybe a little too early to tell so far. And then last, is it chilly in here to you? Guys who are completely fine. And then actually there's another level to job security, and I call that hypothermia. That's how cold the seat is. I'm sure you could probably guess who's in the hypothermia tier.
I'm gonna put
2.
I'm gonna put Kirby and Sark right there.
Ooh, you nailed it.
Okay.
You nailed it. You figured me out, Preston Thorne.
I'm gonna put Kirby and Sark. They are very much sitting in cooled seats, igloo-ish type of style. They are not warm at all.
Akin to like cryotherapy chambers.
There you go. That's exactly it. That's exactly it. Frostbite, if you will.
Yeah, shades of Antonio Brown with his short stint as a Las Vegas Raider, highlighted by a lot of things, and one of those was a frostbitten toe from a cryotherapy chamber. If you don't know, Google it. All right, Blazing Inferno. I have 3 coaches here that have the hottest seats in the SEC, where this is a really big year for all of them to prove that they're worthy enough of keeping their jobs. Now, maybe a lot of people wouldn't put 3 in this category, but there are 3 that I think are firmly entrenched in here. Could you guess them?
Okay, I'm going to go with Billy Napier.
I don't have Billy Napier in this one.
Ooh, you think he moved himself out of that spot from last year?
Now, I will say he is in the tier that Billy's in. The fire marshal is on call.
Okay, so he's on fire
it's
marshal.
Warm,
okay,
but
all
he's
right.
not engulfed in flame.
Here's a strange one because this dude has won a lot of games, and I think he's speaking today. I'm gonna put Brian Kelly in there.
Ooh, Brian Kelly also fire marshal on call.
Okay, well,
I think if they don't make the playoff this year, it's going to get a really uncomfortable, especially considering how successful the other coaches are at that school that were brought in the same year as he was. Kim Mulkey and Jay Johnson, who have combined 3 national championships between them.
That's why you're a pro, Elijah. That's a great one right there. All right, so I guess 2. So maybe I'm missing on the index. Who's in your scorching hot seat?
All right, number 1, the one I even ranked them out of the hottest ones. Number 1, Mark Stoops.
Stoopsy.
And I think this would not be the case because obviously Kentucky football is not the moneymaker there, but the flirtation, and that's probably putting it mildly, with Texas A&M.
You think?
I think rubbed a lot of people the wrong way in Lexington. And then you have the disappointment last year. They do the quarterback carouseling thing where they do a rent a QB every year with mixed results. And then they miss a bowl game last year. If they miss a bowl game this year, I think he might have worn his welcome out.
I like that. Well, yeah, you said flirtation to put it lightly. He was gone.
Yeah, he was gone. Flirtation is actually maybe more infidelity.
Yes. That's it. That is exactly it. Okay, so we got Mark Stoops. Who you got next?
Next, Hugh Freeze. Don't let his last name fool you. The seat is not freezing.
You know, this golf story is stupid enough to get him fired. It is a dumb story. But in the face of losing a couple of blowouts, maybe you lose to a G5 team, maybe you get blown out by Alabama in the Iron Bowl. That's the type of thing that gets you fired in the SEC.
Mm-hmm. Especially in a place like Auburn, too, where people are – look, the fan bases are crazy enough to drive by your house to see if there's any energy coming from it, because that's exactly what somebody on an Auburn message board admitted to doing. Now, whether or not they actually did that or they're saying it for semantics, it's whatever. But I'm not putting it past him. I mean, you look at what his career's been at Auburn so far. You have losses to New Mexico State at home, Vanderbilt at home, Cal at home, and then you alluded to that Iron Bowl where it's not just that you lost to Alabama, especially considering Hugh Freeze was brought in to be the Saban killer, but it's how you lost that game at home to Alabama, 4th and very long. Nobody's covering Isaiah Bond in the corner of the end zone. A completely avoidable fate. And I think they only rushed 2 players on that play. Didn't try at all to get to Jalen Milroe on that play.
That play was as shocking as the kick 6. As far as I can't believe this actually happened.
Yeah, I mean, I remember sitting in the press box before the Carolina Clemson game at Willie B. And that was obviously the game leading into it. And everybody's watching, and rarely do a press box full of reporters ever get animated over something. Everyone's watching that game, and in a collective, like, what just happened, kind of swept through the entire building. It was a pretty wild experience. But the last one in the Blazing Inferno tier, Brent Venables at Oklahoma.
I like what you're doing here. And I like Brent. Obviously, he coached for the Purple People Eaters up the road. But he is a solid coach. That offense was atrocious last year, and then coming in with a last-ditch effort, they're bringing in a new quarterback, new OC. They're trying to get the right. My question always for Brent Venables was he going to be able to make the transition from being a masterful defensive coordinator to being the leader of the whole team? He has not been able to do that yet.
No, absolutely not. And that's the thing too. At Oklahoma, the standard's a little different. Now, I would think differently for Oklahoma, maybe being quick to fire him. I know they signed him to extension, but that only means so much. I mean, coaching buyouts. I think Jimbo Fisher completely skewed the coaching buyout market forever. I think that was like kind of a permanent thing. But looking at Brent Venables and the connection he's got to Oklahoma, I don't think they want to fire him. And I think if they ever have to, it's going to be like that Wesley Snipes gif where he's holding the gun out and he's got a tear running down his eye. That's exactly how Oklahoma would do it, right? That's exactly what it would look like if they ever had to fire him. But in a place like Oklahoma, if you're under 500 again, 2 of his first 3 years, Preston, the Oklahoma Sooners We're under 500. That's not something anybody in that program ever has as an expectation for
Yeah,
them.
and as much as I'm not a fan, the dude that they had before Brent won a lot at Oklahoma. And I'm not a fan of him at all, but it's kind of tough to go from where Oklahoma was consistently with Lincoln Riley to where they have been. I guess we could say consistently now with Brent Venables.
Yeah, and of course I know the 10-win season the year before maybe bought him some grace, maybe bought him a little bit of time. I don't know how much it actually did, because if there's a bad season this year, things can get really sticky. You can get gross really fast. And then with the fire marshals on call, we already talked about Billy Napier and Brian Kelly, but I'm also putting Sam Pittman in this one as well. The expectation level at Arkansas, I don't think they're ever going to expect to contend for an SEC title. And I think being better than expected last year at least bought him this year with some heavy observation. But my spicy one in this tier, Preston Thorne, Kalen DeBoer.
I like it.
A 12-team playoff. Alabama rarely missed the 4-team playoff. They missed the first 12-teamer. If they underachieve and they don't make the playoff this year, I don't know exactly how patient the fan base will be. Now, the administration, the fan base, two completely different things. I think I think the administration a little more level-headed, but at the same time, that is going to be an incredible amount of pressure. So I don't think the seat is a blazing inferno, but I do firmly believe that the seat is warm enough to where the fire marshal's on call here, and the situation is heavily monitored.
Yeah, every admin is level-headed until the fans make enough noise. And so, yeah, they can say they want to be level-headed, but when fans either stop showing up, spending money, or they start making more noise on the message boards and on the local shows, admin listen to that because their first job is to keep their own jobs. And so,
right,
and nobody in that town, nobody is loyal. Much different than Brent Venables. There are people in Oklahoma who are loyal to Brent Venables. They want to see this work. Nobody in Alabama really cares about Kalen DeBoer. All they care about is him winning. And so there's no loyalty there. And if he does not win again, people will be ready to move on quickly.
Very quickly. And now for room temperature, I've just got Jeff Lebby and Mike Elko. They were year oneers last year. Elko started off hot, and they did the Texas A&M thing where no matter how good you start, you still end up at 8-4. Like the law of averages ultimately finds them and defeats them. And then Jeff Lebby, I think, was a year zero type deal at Mississippi State. The roster was in really bad shape, but I think his offense is good enough. I think he's a good enough offensive mastermind to get them to where they're competitive, where Mississippi State at least expects to be. And then it's a bunch of fellas in the is it chilly in here to you tier. And then, of course, I got Coach Beamer in there, Clark Lee from Vanderbilt, Lane Kiffin, Eli Drinkwitz, and Josh Heupel.
Yeah, all of those guys sound right. I think only one that has not, I guess Shane and Eli. Shane and Eli are the only ones out of those guys who have not made the playoffs. So it's interesting. Well, take Clark Lee out because that's not going to happen.
Yeah, that's assumed. That's not going to happen.
He's on a different scale. But that's why we talk about these. We always talk about the middle class of the SEC. And what you kind of named out was all the guys who were in the middle class.
Mm-hmm. And it's not a bad middle class to be in. I think especially the couple of these guys had last year did wonders for things like job security for Shane. I mean, obviously winning 9 games, having a chance to win 10, great for job security. What Clark Lee did at Vanderbilt last year, fantastic. And it made them a lot more excited for college football than I think people at that university have been for a long, long time. These guys are the men in charge of their programs. But Preston Thorne, the big man in charge of the entire conference and one of the more influential voices in college sports, is speaking today in this ballroom right behind me. Do you think we'll get any clues as to what the league does with scheduling in the future? And does any of it really matter? That's next here on the early game. Look, this morning I had to walk a long way to get to the College Football Hall of Fame, and I got sweaty and I became a mess. In the summer, the conditions are ripe for becoming a mess, like drippy popsicles, messy mud flowing through your home. You can remove it the safe way with a deep and lasting clean of Zero Res. Zero Res, easy to remember. Zero residue, right? Pretty simple. And the summer goes by fast. So instead of worrying about cleaning your home, you can spend the time doing what you love, and Zero Res will do that work for you. Zero Res only offers this sale once a year. Take advantage of their summer sale, 15% off. Carpet, air ducts, area rugs, upholsteries, tile and grout, and more, all for 15% off. The patented cleaning process from Zero Res uses no harsh chemicals for a clean that's safe for your family and pets. Everybody wants that. Schedule online, ZeroResColumbia.com. Zero Res, spell it backwards or forwards. It's the right way to clean.
Heading towards Augusta, might encounter a slowdown there, I-20 westbound at exit 39. Aside from that, really traffic going fairly well this morning. We're not Mondaying so far, and hopefully it stays that way. And weather-wise, 94 for the high today, 92 tomorrow and on Wednesday. Those chances for maybe a couple afternoon thunderstorms rolling in is a possibility pretty much throughout the week. Starting off the morning, the sun is working its way out. 76 currently on 107.5 The Game.
Here at SEC Media Days, brought to you by Lawyer Lisa. Need to talk estate planning, elder law, elder care, or probate? Call Lawyer Lisa, 803-563-5163, or go to lawyerlisa.com. Well, I know I'm not much of a fashionista myself. I am rocking a 107.5 The Game polo. I did make sure to wear some station type gear to at least when I came in on the first day, people wouldn't stop me at the door, even though my credential is supposed to stop that itself. But give us some station identifier. The fit, I would rate for myself 4 of 10, 5 of 10 maybe. Not my best fashion day.
Hey,
but we officially have what is being worn on our way to Atlanta.
There you go. Well, I'm impressed that you have some gear. I'm still hoping to get some kind of. I have outer gear, but I don't have like shirts. So maybe you can hook me up. It's been a sizing issue. I really could wear them as dresses and belt them. So I got to kind of work on getting the right fit.
I think I've got like a couple back at my house that I've used and maybe was supposed to return. I know the one I'm wearing right now, full disclosure, was supposed to return, haven't returned it.
Oh, so, see? Well, good thing you didn't. Now you're all set for the week.
Yeah, and it's like the 107.5 The Game thing that's got like the little Gamecock patch on it too. I mean, it's not a terrible shirt, not my favorite. I've got a lot of favorite shirts, but I think for the first day it was appropriate for South Carolina speaking today that I wore this one particularly. But Jen, Preston, we officially have the photo, the fit check of Lenora Sellers, Shane Beamer, DQ Smith, and Nick Barrett. And I think there was an observation made in our group text that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, I need to address this. With the coming of NIL, we've all talked about how do we address these young people? Mm-hmm. You know, are they adults? Are they not adults? Do we want to kind of spare their feelings? And while I will take it easy on them on the field, maybe excusing some plays that they miss on the field, I cannot stand for the unforced errors that I've seen in this fit check. Jen, we haven't talked about this, but I believe we see the same issues that are happening with the fit checks from all of them across the board.
I believe what we're seeing is they got the shirt, they took it out of the plastic and put it on. Because you see the perfect creases from a folded shirt when you buy it in the store. So I don't believe the shirts have been washed nor ironed.
No, 1,000%. I'm in agreement. We did not speak about this, but I'm in agreement with you. The perfectly creased down the mid-chest line lets me know that all they did. And dress shirts are tricky because you have to take off all the little pins and the stuff. You got to take all that off. But most importantly, all you have to do is iron it. Yeah. And nobody on these dress shirts iron it. And I'm going to say that's an unforced error, and I'm going to put the blame on Shane Beamer. We can't let them walk onto this very small jet and I'm unironed as shirts.
And I'm sure they're looking at it as, well, hey, we got these, because they're all carrying their blazers and jackets. So I'm sure they're thinking, well, put the jacket on and nobody will notice. Well, yep, but we notice you here.
Yeah, we can't do that. That's an unforced error. And this is something I will be critical of because they all are well compensated. So they have to be able to take care of these are the little things, Elijah, that you have to take care of. They're all wearing suits. It looks like Lenoris is going with a black suit, which, again, not a great choice because they always say when you're wearing a black suit, they want to know if you work there, right? So you don't want to go to wear black suit, or are you going to a funeral? Black suit, not a great look. DQ Smith going with a light gray. It's a solid look. We'll see how that turns out. Nick Barrett going with a tan suit. Could be controversial. could be controversial. We'll see how that works out for him. All of them going with sneakers. I'll excuse it because of the age. But if you're an adult man out there, don't wear sneakers with a suit. Not a good look. But I will excuse it for their age. Shane Beamer, solid, gray slacks, burgundy blazer, white horsebit loafers. Shane is doing fine. But Shane, you got to get the rest of the guys right.
Yeah, and he's the one actually that has like more of a monochromatic thing. Like everybody else, their jacket and their pants match. It's like, black and black, gray and gray, tan and tan. He's the one with garnet jacket, black pants.
Yeah, Elijah, this is where we can get this is where you can kick me outside and call me the nerd. Are you ready?
Oh, I'm ready.
Okay. Lenoris, DQ, and Nick are all wearing suits. Why is it a suit? Because the top matches the bottom. They're made out of the same. They're made in the same material. Shane is wearing a sport coat.
Thank you.
A sport coat is a blazer or a sport coat, but it's not made out of the same material as the pants, which are called odd pants. Those are trousers. So those are two different things we have going on there. So you could be wearing a suit, but you also could be wearing a sport coat and a blazer.
See,
Now
this
you
is why
can
I'm
give
glad
me the
you
nerd
guys
sign.
here. Yeah,
love
no, I'm
that,
glad.
though.
I'm glad you guys have this broken down for me, because I'm the type of friend that looks at these fellas and like, all right, boys, we're good. Yeah, you guys looking sharp. Looking sharp. I'm not looking at the wrinkles. Now, when you point them out, then I zoom in on the picture. I'm like, okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. But I'm the type of hype man. I'm like, boys, looking fresh. We're looking good. We're rolling out of here,
So-
right? With no idea of how unbuttoned up it might appear.
Okay, I do
I
have
will
one
Leroy
other,
Jenkins this thing.
I do have one other question. Is the belt supposed to match the shoes?
Belt matches shoes.
Okay,
Belt matches
then
shoes.
we got an error there.
Yeah, belt matches
Look,
shoes.
look at Coach.
Yeah, belt.
Brown belt, black shoes.
Unforced error, can't do that.
Yeah.
Belt matches shoes all the time. And it doesn't have to specifically match, but it needs to be in the same color range. If you're going brown, like it doesn't have to be dark brown, light. It can
Okay.
do that.
Okay.
But if you're going black on top, black on the bottom.
Okay.
Unforced error on Shane.
Oh.
I don't like it. I might have to adjust my.
As we sit
I
here
might
in
have
our
to adjust.
t-shirts and jeans.
Yeah, I might have to adjust some things here as I'm looking at predictions. Guys, don't like the beginning of this showing for our Gamecocks.
Oh, is this a bad omen? I mean,
I don't
are
know.
we in agreement that this might be a bad omen?
All I'm doing is just put an asterisk by it and let's see later. I
Mhm.
tell you this, you sent us a you said there was a Clark Lee sighting down there at Media Days.
There is. He's chilling over here to my left.
I can guarantee you Clark Lee's buttoned up.
He's shiny.
Quarter zip game. Strong right now.
I got you.
Now, I would not be caught dead wearing a quarter zip in July because I sweat too much for that. I mean, I sweat too much to wear long pants or long sleeves in the month of July, whether it's Atlanta or Columbia, South Carolina. And I don't care what I'm wearing. If I'm sweating through it and then looking like Bruce Pearl, I don't want it, right? It's not going to look good no matter how well dressed I am. If it's damp and soaked, it's a loss for everybody.
Yeah, I just need to do a little bit more research on these specific sneakers. I'm sure they're of some designer type sneakers, which cost a lot of money, and it's cool for the kids. Again, if you're an adult man listening to this, don't wear sneakers with suits. It's past your time for that.
Yep.
That's noted. So at age 30, no more sneakers with suits.
That's probably fair, yes.
I'm writing this down so I don't forget it. And
Yeah,
RIP to the
Elijah has
sneaker
no
days.
idea that when he comes in studio, there's actually going to be fit checks on him. So
I'm sure they probably. I'm sure every day of my life I've walked into buildings and they've been fit checks that have been operated quietly on me. And I have not known them. And I have not passed any of them.
I am not for the surprise fit check. We don't listen. We don't. Whatever you do on a daily basis, especially us, we come in here at 4 or 5:30 in the morning. It's whatever. But when you know you're going to be on camera, when you know you're taking a picture,
national TV,
you got to get it right.
Yep.
You got to get it right.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point.
Yeah,
so,
I mean,
we'll
we
monitor
cleaned
the
up
situation.
like for pictures, for the shows, we at least made ourselves look somewhat presentable.
Correct.
And things like
We
that.
did.
Ironed a shirt here or there, or at least we're able to hide the wrinkles. So yeah, it's a little
I think
different.
the pictures look fantastic, and they look great. By the way, we
I
killed it.
I think so.
I think we understood the assignment there, as the kids would say.
I think so.
But one assignment we do every morning at 7:30, we find Preston's favorite NFL team. Today, we find out whether he values being an NFL hipster or if popularity matters. That's next here on the early game.
Earlier tie-ups have been cleared up, so nothing to speak of currently. Back to a good Monday morning. Hope all is well with you this morning. And we are also hoping that you're ready for another day in the 90s because that's just kind of what we're going to see for the foreseeable future. 94 for your high today, 92 tomorrow and Wednesday. Again, each and every day this week, we do have the opportunity for an afternoon or evening thunderstorm to pop up. But right now, as the sun's working its way out, 76 at 107.5 The Game.
Men's Health. Game Day Men's Health. I can't read. Game Day Men's Health. Columbia offers convenient, expert back care for all men looking to feel and perform their best. Call 803-919-7886 to book an appointment. Preston, would you consider yourself an NFL hipster?
Well, Elijah, I would consider myself probably a hipster in a lot of things. So if you want me to pick the path not traveled, I probably would take that. So yes, I would say that.
Because for those who've listened the last week or so, we are on a long odyssey here to find Preston Thorne, his NFL soulmate. He is a free agent in the fandom world. And we're trying to not just pick a team to just loosely keep up with for this year, but one that matches Preston's football-loving soul. And we've gone through plenty of criteria. We've gone through run-happy offenses, pass-happy offenses, what type of head coach he's looking for, a head coach for his favorite team. We've gone through a lot. But the one thing we haven't done yet is the popularity tier. So last night, Preston, I went and I looked at the social media following of all 32 NFL teams, and we have tiered them off accordingly. The higher the tier, the more popular the team is on social media. The lower the tier,
dude, I'm going to stop you. We need to get you a life. I'm just saying. I appreciate the commitment to the cause, but holy smokes.
It is, we had a funny Airbnb situation where I didn't feel like leaving it. So I was getting ready for the show last night, and I was like, you know what? This information is readily available elsewhere. Also, at the same time, I do need to maybe establish other hobbies that don't exist, that don't include my job.
Just put
probably.
It out there. But thank you for all of this. And as long as the Bears are at the top of the list, that's all I care about.
I can't promise you anything.
Nah, okay.
I can't make any promises.
I'd love to get Preston over to my side, but I understand there's a lot that goes into this decision making.
Unfortunately, the Bears have matched 0 of the criteria.
The Bears have not come up at all, strangely enough.
See, that may be a sign that you need to go to them.
Maybe.
You know?
If opposites attract. If we're matchmaking here, sometimes opposites can attract.
Just saying. Yep. We got a new coach. So
True.
New coach, young quarterback.
Yeah.
I don't know what,
keeping a crappy GM for a few more years, but whatever,
Yeah, extending a GM with a record that's like 15 games under 500. I'm sure that's not an issue.
15 and 26 or something. Yeah. But we have a new coach.
Jen, you're doing a hell of a job selling it. A hell of a job. A hell of a job right now.
Right,
I don't know why Preston hasn't committed to it already. I'm surprised he hasn't.
All right,
in terms of popularity, so obviously tier 8 is the most popular tier. Tier 1, the least popular tier. Where do you fall on this spectrum, Preston Thorne?
Okay, so social media popularity can go two ways because something can be very viral, but maybe not necessarily as popular in the real world. They might have a great social media team, so that can happen. I don't want to go for the most popular team. I'm gonna go middle of the road here. Give me a 4.
All right. Oh, this is fun.
Oh no.
The teams in Tier 4.
Oh no.
Oh man.
Oh no.
Oh, the bit is never been
Oh,
more
no.
organic. All right. The teams in Tier 4.
Oh boy.
The Buffalo Bills,
Okay.
which that makes it the third time the Bills have matched. They're very
That could be
very
fun.
high on the list here.
That could be fun.
The Houston Texans, which
Mm,
I believe this is the first appearance
That's correct.
for the Texans. The Cincinnati Bengals, and
Okay.
lastly, the Atlanta Falcons.
Oh, no.
For the fifth time, the Atlanta
Seriously.
Falcons are mentioned. The fifth time.
Oh man.
It sounds like love at first sight
This is
without actually seeing them.
This is, one of my favorite things is when is a thing a thing? This is becoming a thing. We had a long conversation with Tyler on Friday. He expressed maybe some of the apprehensions about becoming a Falcon fan. He told me the history, and he said he just gave me a word of warning. I wasn't sure if I wanted to do this, but this feels like this is happening.
Well, but maybe it should be it's too good to be true.
Yes.
So there's so many matches that maybe you
Yes.
shouldn't go that route.
Yes. Sometimes you might make all the matches on paper, but it
Yeah.
doesn't work in real life.
Mhm.
I don't
Trying to
know, but
help.
something might be happening.
It very well
As
could.
he puts his
I'm
hand in
starting
his-
to
his head in
feel.
his
I'm
hands.
starting to sense an infatuation here. I'm starting to notice a trend, and I don't know if you can stop fate at this point, Preston Thorne. I know.
Oh, we can.
No,
We'll help him.
I mean, break in case of emergency line. I guess
Mhm.
can maybe help, but it's one of those things too that if I had a friend who was considering Atlanta Falcons fandom, I would back them off the ledge. I would tell them to care for themselves, to love themselves. And if it gets to that point, then maybe we'll have to have our friends on the Firehouse Subs text line or anybody that loves you enough to call in and say, hey, Preston, don't do it. Reconsider. Read some literature on the subject. We might get to that point. But in terms of a team that is chasing after the heart of Preston Thorne, the Atlanta Falcons just seem like the ideal match.
Any Falcon fans out there listening, just comment "Rise Up" on the text line, just to let me know if we're out here. I don't. This might be a thing.
Our pal Steven Bessinger did kind of chime in on the YouTube stream. At first he recommended spinning the wheel of misfortune, but then he says as a better punishment, you have to choose the Falcons now. He's a Falcons fan. I mean, a lot of people on here, like on our Firehouse Subs text line, have been very adamant in terms of trying to get you to cheer for the team that they cheer for, but none of them have been Falcons fans.
Yeah.
And I know we have Falcons fans that listen to the station.
Yeah, this is going someplace I didn't anticipate it. But let's continue for the show. We're going to continue.
For the show, we will continue. And you'll have options because when we get done with all of this, we will line up the three biggest matches. We'll lay out the profile. And as of right now, in terms of team match count, the Falcons have been matched with you on 5 different criteria. The Buccaneers 3. And then we have a whole bunch with 2. And that list includes the Lions, the Patriots, the Eagles, the Packers. Actually, the Bills are 3 as well. So the Buccaneers and Bills, both with 3. And then Bengals, Seahawks, Packers, Eagles, Patriots, Lions, all with 2.
If we're going to be friends, the Packers may not be an option. I'm just saying.
I think Jen was going to veto that one right now. I don't think Jen at any point in her life thought she'd ever do a radio show with a Packers fan.
That would hurt a whole bunch. I did do a radio show with a Clemson fan. So, if I can get through that.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true. So you've put up with maybe worse. I don't know. Maybe this is the straw that breaks the camel's back.
Might be
for
the
you.
one.
Maybe this is the beginning of the Jen Jensen villain origin story.
There you go. Well, I did have a nickname, Evil Jen, a long time ago. So,
well, we will see what Evil Jen looks like if Preston decides to choose the Green Bay Packers. But we'll keep on with this. I'll think of the criteria for tomorrow, and then maybe for Preston's case, it doesn't end up involving the Atlanta Falcons. But coming up next, it's time to throw out some weekend takes. Preston or Reston, that's next here on the Early Game. Coverage here at SEC Media Days brought to you by Lexington Discount Homes. Lexington Discount Homes, one of South Carolina's leading retailers of manufactured homes. Go to LexingtonDiscountHomes.com to find out more. Preston, you're getting encouraged. Before we get to Preston or Reston, there's a lot of encouragement for you to join the Falcons. And by that, I mean there's 3 people on the text line that have hit us up with a rise up.
Rise up. We'll see. It looks like this way direction we may be going.
But there is one convincing, before we get to Preston or Reston as well, there is one convincing text that does say the Eagles have Deuce Staley, Alshon, and Dawn. Go Eagles.
I like the Gamecock connection. That's something I'm always looking for. I do understand that. We'll see.
And then R.D. Myers recommends that Bill's Mafia needs you jumping on a table this season. Would you be willing to jump on a table to avoid Atlanta Falcons fandom?
To avoid the fandom. Those tables, I don't know if they're like trick tables. Again, I have to ask Tyler about this. Are these some sort of prop tables that they use for wrestling? Because going through a table does not sound fun to me. But I am committed to bits. So if that is the case, I will do it.
This looks like a classic Rubbermaid table to me. But Preston or Reston, well, there's a lot of stuff that happened over the sports weekend and a lot to talk about in the world of sports. And clearly, we're here at SEC Media Days, so we have a lot to cover here. But we'll start off with something that happened at Wimbledon. Preston, this is a Wimbledon appreciating show. And with Jannik Sinner holding the number 1 world ranking and beating Carlos Alcaraz to win Wimbledon yesterday, we can safely say he's the best in the world right now.
I will go with Reston on this one because I'm not as familiar with Jannik and Alcaraz. I'm just getting back into this new rivalry, though I do appreciate having a focal point of knowing who to cheer for, who to cheer against. I just need to learn a little bit more about them, but I am very interested. So I'll Reston on the idea that he's the best in the world, but Preston on the idea that we have a new rivalry.
I do love a good budding rivalry with Djokovic, Nadal, and Federer kind of phasing out. This could be kind of its replacement. Preston or Reston, the team most likely to crash the Georgia-Texas SEC title game rematch party is LSU, not Alabama.
Preston, because I think Brian Kelly's a better coach than Kalen DeBoer. I'm not convinced. When I break down teams, I go a couple things: coaches, quarterbacks. I think Brian Kelly's better than Kalen DeBoer as a coach, and I think Garrett Nussmeier is better than Ty Simpson as a quarterback. So, Preston.
That is sound logic right there, sir. I appreciate that. Yeah, that's good, and I think so too. I mean, if the defense can just hold opponents to under 21 points a game, I think they can get to at least 10-2. And that gets them into the playoff. And then it gets them flirting with playing here in Atlanta again in December. Preston or Reston, the Vanderbilt infatuation and hype has more to do with Diego Pavia's swagger than his play specifically.
Absolutely, Preston. Absolutely, Preston. He's a fine quarterback. He does some really fun things on the field. But when you add in the lore, the post-game press conferences, the stuff that he does on and off the field, I think it's more about that more so than what he actually does on the field.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think it's not enough discussion about how good Eli Stowers is. The more I watch him and the more I look at some of the numbers from last year, like that guy is one of the best tight ends in college football. And was a blue chip high school quarterback recruit as well and made that change. So it's an incredible all-around athlete. But here's an interesting one. I've always been curious. You're a Pablo Torre Finds Out listener, Preston. So am I. And there was a big report involving the NFLPA and the NFL owners. So Preston or Reston, the NFL owners have a really big issue on their hands and will have to change how they do business in order to fix it with 30 of 32 second rounders still unsigned.
There is some trouble brewing. I'm gonna go with Preston. No. You know what? I'm gonna take that back. I'm gonna go with Reston. There is trouble brewing. However, the NFL always wins in the end. Those players want to, one, they want to play, two, they want to get paid. More than likely, they're not willing to waste any of their time by missing games or missing practices, especially early in their career. Remember, these guys are second-round guys, not first-round guys. So I will take Reston on that. It's a big bluff. The NFL love the game. Big bank take little bank. Owners have way more bank than the players, and they'll probably end up winning this dispute. But it's something to keep an eye on.
Do you think that the clock or the calendar probably has as much to do with the leverage they have as anything? I mean, it's not a new CBA year, So like a lockout's not something that can happen. But I think we're getting kind of dangerously close to something like that happening if the NFLPA especially changes leadership, giving the reports of possible collusion with guaranteed contracts. I know Trey Harris is one of those players for the Los Angeles Chargers holding out as well. Again, 32 second rounders not being signed, and it's mid-July. Like, training.
I guess I need to check what about our own Nicky Memori. Has he signed? I imagine he has not out of those 30.
I don't think so.
Yeah, so I would
I'm not
imagine anybody in the
100%
second
sure.
round, that makes a lot of sense. It's something to keep an eye on, but the NFL owners just have so much leverage as far as the contracts are concerned. I don't think these players will be able to do anything about it right now, but it is something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, it's definitely something to monitor, but I think we're starting to get into some waters that might be a little hairy for both the NFL and the PA. 2 hours down, 1 to go. Start hour number 3. We'll revisit first down for your life. We discussed Nick Barrett in the first hour, but is DQ Smith one of those guys that has one of the best stories on this team? We'll discuss all that and more to continue the early game. If you have a leak, let Midstate Roofing take a peek, because for nearly 30 years, Midstate has continued to be a proven leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry. And anytime someone's been the best of the best for 30 plus years, you have to stick with them. It's almost like LeBron James, but add 10 more years to it. LeBron's been one of the best players in the NBA for 20 years. Midstate Roofing has been the main players in the game for roofing and waterproofing for 30 here in the Midstate. From high-rise to hospitals, manufacturing to industrial, Midstate Roofing designs and installs bonded systems with a protective guarantee that will help your operation dry and running long into the future, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And you can call them at any time, because they will have an on-call technician that can speak with you at 803-356-1919. Or, of course, you can hit them up online at midstateroofing.com. That's midstateroofing.com. If you have a leak, let Midstate Roofing take a peek.
Ramblin' Road between 302 and South Pine Street have a report of an accident there, so be mindful as you are cruising through that area. 94, that's going to be our high today. 92 for the next couple days after that. Afternoon or evening thunderstorms are a distinct possibility because we are in July. But we're starting off the morning. The sun is out, a little bit muggy, 76 at 107.5 The Game.
Hour number 3 of the early game. 2 down, 1 more to go. And here in just about, I would say, an hour's time, maybe? Double check the schedule. Greg Sankey will be speaking right behind me. We're finally starting to get some people hanging out down there in the press conference room.
I like hearing that. Greg Sankey is behind you.
It sounds scary. It sounds menacing.
I was
Like
thinking
if
actually
he's
that
standing
just
right
means
behind
that
me,
he's
it's
behind
doing
you.
it
You're actually leading him. I like that.
as if I'm escorting him. Well, I mean, I used to work in concert security in the great city of Nashville at music venues, and I used to have to do some escorts every now and then.
Trying to prop him up here, and he's just not getting it, Preston. Trying to make him sound
Just
like
not
he is
getting it.
more important than Sankey.
That I'm speaking first. Well, technically speaking, Jen, you are correct because
You
I
are,
am speaking
yeah.
first, but just not on that stage. But I am speaking in the building before he does.
There you go.
It
Trying to
counts.
help you out.
It counts. I think that is at 9:05. So here in almost an hour, Greg will be speaking. And of course, it is South Carolina Day along with LSU, Vanderbilt, and Ole Miss. And in the first hour of the show, we discussed a little bit of Nick Barrett as one of the players who's going to be here. I feel like there is a pretty good character arc, a football character arc between Nick Barrett and Preston Thorne that is pretty similar. And Preston, we talk about Nick Barrett too. A guy who limited snaps last year, obviously redshirted, limited snaps for the most part of his career, but has a big opportunity ahead of him. And I feel like that's something you can relate to pretty well.
Yeah, I could definitely relate to it. As I said, I've one of the things why I feel like I bring value to this station is because I fulfilled all of the roles that a college athlete goes through throughout their career. I redshirted, I sat the bench, I've been a backup, I've been somebody who's gotten multiple playing time, I was a starter, I got injured. So I did a lot of those different things. And there are uniquely different mindsets that you have to take when you're approaching the game from those various perspectives. And Nick is obviously going to be looking to take advantage of his newfound opportunity this year. And it's going to be something different for him. Obviously, he's mature and he's ready to do this, but it is going to be something different than he's done in the past.
It is, yeah. It's going to require more snaps, and it's going to require playing with maybe some differences in terms of how the team looks. I think Gabriel Brownlow-Dindy is really one of the biggest newcomers. You're losing obviously the big dogs that started with TJ and Tonka and DeAndre Jules, and you're having to replace a lot of that. But there's pressure that kind of comes with that, but maybe a sense of familiarity, because I think if there's anything that's benefited him, it is playing under Clayton White in that defense for the last few years. So there's lack of a learning curve for him specifically, which should make him a little more comfortable.
Yeah, and with those guys, they're all going to have to take up a new role, because I will probably could do a Preston Thorne bingo card the more that I stress that, hey, man, we lost a bunch of dudes last year. And I'll just probably keep saying it over and over again. And maybe it's to soothe myself, or maybe it's just a reminder to us as a fan base. But Tonka, TJ, Boogie, DeAndre, they were extremely good as a unit last year, led by Tonka and TJ, backed up, fortified by Boogie and DeAndre. They were an awesome unit. And it's even if this year's unit regresses, I do expect there's still a lot of room for them to be really good, because I would say that group was borderline great.
No, Absolutely, yeah, and of course those guys ain't walking through that door to put the Rick Pitino game in full effect. But I think what you just hit on was the real thing for this defensive line. How much they regress is the issue. Is going to be, I guess, the thing to look at as to whether or not this defense as a whole regresses. And look, if they give up maybe 115 yards on the ground and 3.5 yards per carry, it's probably not bad. You're probably still winning a lot of games. Maybe you're not as dominant defensively as you were last year, but you're playing good enough to give your offense a chance and not have to score 40 every game to win it, right? But if you're hemorrhaging yards on the ground and teams can just establish that run on you, they can control the clock. It doesn't matter how good Lenore Sellers is because they can keep the ball. The other team can just keep the ball away from his hands, and I think that's a really big factor. And well, not really. Unfortunately, it's exciting to see the opportunity, but this group up front can be the unit that keeps that part from happening because I think they're really secure on the back end of the defense.
Absolutely, and as you was laying out that scenario, that just reminds us as another one of the teams that's going to be there today. That's sort of where LSU has been for the whole Brian Kelly era, right? They've been lighting stuff up on offense. They have great quarterbacks, Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks, but they have not been able to stop anybody. And to me, that sounds like a recipe for a very frustrating season as a fan.
And defensively too, not being able to stop anybody on the ground is maybe the cardinal sin of defense. I would say, or one of them. But what South Carolina's got on the back end that at least makes you feel good going into the season about this defense is how much experience they have in the secondary, how much talent they have in the secondary. DQ Smith is coming here as well. And I feel like, Preston, this offseason, like already we've talked a lot about Jalen Kilgore last week. Brandon Cisse is a very intriguing transfer prospect because of what he did at NC State. And Judge Collier grew leaps and bounds. I think Peyton Williams, in the instances where he had to come in and play last year, really held his own. But I don't think we talk enough about DQ Smith, a guy who's not just a program guy who's been here for a long time now, a local kid as well, but he's an energy guy, a guy that won the spring award, for team spirit pretty much. Like, he is a great locker room guy along with somebody who can make some plays in the defensive backfield.
So, yeah, DQ is a great story because he's a local recruit. He's somebody who changed position. He was a local athlete, was a quarterback at Spring Valley, was awesome there. Takes the opportunity to come here to South Carolina, becomes a free safety, and has played well. I think he might have regressed a little bit last year, or if not necessarily regressed. He just was the one that fans maybe picked on because they might have noticed him getting beat or just being the person who was in camera while coverage was breaking down, which is the unfortunate aspect of playing DB sometimes. Yeah. But DQ is absolutely a guy who can take the leadership mantle of this team, and I think somebody who's been around long enough to provide very solid leadership that you need on the back end of that defense. So he's absolutely going to be a tremendous part of this defense this year.
This is where we're going to have to lean on you, Preston, as well, because I think what you just pressed on is something that I think a lot of football fans kind of fall into, a trap they fall into, is when you see another team score a passing touchdown, the last defender you see is the safety. Sometimes they catch the brunt of your ire. But when you watch DQ Smith, how much of what he does on the field kind of maybe defies that logic of just being the defender closest to a player that ends up scoring?
Well, he and Nick Emenwari were a tandem last year. So a lot of the success that Nick had was based on what DQ did, whether that was being, the deep safety or being the person who secured or being the last of the last, the deepest of the deepest. But you don't, as I said with safeties, you don't see all the deep throws that they prevent. You don't see how many times that him being in his spot, him holding down his third of the field, or him holding down his quarters or halves or whatever, when the quarterback pump fakes and they don't throw it because he's there. You only see the times where they make a catch and then you're like, oh, those safeties don't ever do their job, blah, 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 blah. That's not the case. Obviously, he had to be doing his job pretty well for that defense to be successful last year. And what I think is his background as a high school quarterback, as somebody who understands offense sort of inherently, that absolutely helps him perform his role as a safety.
Joe is on our phone lines here to talk about DQ Smith as well. Joe, good morning. Welcome to the early game, sir.
Hey, good morning, fellas. How you guys doing, man?
Good.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so yeah, great. So listen, last year, if you guys remember the Old Dominion game, DQ Smith was I don't know the calls in the defense, but it was one of the first plays of the year that you saw him look bad, so to
Mhm.
speak.
Mhm.
You know, like I said, I don't know whose fault it was, but then the year before that, you remember, they put him at the slot. They put him in a lot of different positions. You watch him get cooked. He just got cooked. Now, he's progressed a lot since his freshman year to this year right here. DQ Smith has watched a lot of guys go on to the pros. So he's been able to communicate with those guys and talk with those guys, work out with those guys, and he also has been able to watch a lot of film to get a better understanding of what he's doing back there. So he's probably the guy who calls out all the plays this year. He makes the adjustments and everything. He's the leader back there, man. That's the last line of defense. And like you said a minute ago, Preston, they stopped a lot of guys from going deep to prevent the deep ball. This year, DQ Smith will be all SEC first team. Watch what I say.
Ooh.
First team,
Joe.
first team all SEC, man.
Spicy.
DQ Smith will be that dude. Seriously, man. He'll go in the second and third round, but he'll be a first team all SEC.
I'm writing that down.
That-
First
that's not-
team
that-
all
that-
SEC.
That's my take, because the secondary is the most experienced part of our defense this year. And if the defensive line is as good as I think they'll be, watch what I tell you, man. The secondary is going to be just as good as it was last year. Write it down. Like you said, Elijah, write it down.
No, it's
Write
written
it
down.
down,
I have
man.
the year of our Lord 2025, July 14th. Joe says
Yeah.
DQ Smith. So when it happens, you can be the first one to say that you saw it coming. But I mean, Joe,
Yeah,
thank you
man.
for the call, and I see where
Appreciate
you're
it,
coming
man.
from too, because there was a lot of improvement for DQ Smith in the course of just last year. Preston, I'm glad he brought up the Old Dominion game, because I was about to get to that myself. Old Dominion game, he missed 3 tackles in that game, had a coverage grade of 44.7, and it didn't look good. And he gave up 1 catch. He was credited with giving up 1 catch on 1 target for 72 yards and a touchdown. I think we all know which play that was. Very early on in the game,
Yes.
right? Was not a great day for DQ Smith. But 3 missed tackles in that game. You know how many tackles he missed the rest of the season?
What you got?
5 total. And not a single
Wow.
game where he missed multiple tackles. And that coverage grade went up. It never went below 56 after that. Now, he had 56 against Clemson, 57 against Illinois, but had 70s against Missouri, had upper 60s against Ole Miss, Alabama, low 60s against against LSU and Kentucky. Like, this is a guy that, after having admittedly a poor game in the Old Dominion game to start, turned his season around, got significantly better, and then you saw how beneficial that was to the rest of the Gamecock defense. So that's Joe's hitting on something there. That DQ Smith can be a big X factor for this defense, especially considering all the talent they have in the secondary.
Well, he hits on a football truism, and it's truisms are a little bit different than cliches, but a truism is this: when the defensive line messes up, it's a first down. When the secondary messes up, it's a touchdown. So nobody knows how many times maybe it was Boogie Hunley or TJ Sanders or any of those guys on the defense line. Nobody knows when they got reach blocked or they didn't make a double team or something that didn't. Nobody can tell what's happening inside. But when DQ Smith misses a tackle, it's often in space. It's often by himself. The camera's on him, and you see it. And especially against that game in ODU when we were very close to losing that game, all the fans were frustrated. That can happen, and that could shape a narrative that maybe would follow him all year. So always remember that. When the D-line messes up, it's a first down. When the secondary messes up, it's a touchdown. And it could be the same types of mistakes.
Yeah, it very well could. And hopefully with DQ back there, with as much as we talked about Jalen Kilgore and Cisse and then the corners as well, if DQ Smith is like the less talked about guy of that group, you have to really love what you have, because I feel like in almost any other secondary in the SEC, DQ Smith is being talked about as one of the stars of the unit.
Yeah, but as Joe said, I think DQ's main role is to be the literal quarterback of the safety, get everybody straight, get them lined up, and make sure everybody's in their right spots and positions.
Almost like the organizer,
Correct.
if you will, the organizer of the defense. So that, yeah, I mean, like, maybe not just a great story, but somebody who can absolutely help this team break past that threshold this year and get this defense to be able to be another top 20 unit, just like it was last year. We'll take a quick break. We come back, as we do every Monday at 8:15. It's Thorns, Buds, and Roses. Preston Thorn has some awards to hang out, and maybe some not so great awards from the weekend it was in sports. That's next here on the Early Game.
Preston here for our friends at Absolute Glass, the premier glass company of the Midlands, offering auto, home, and business glass repair. If your glass is damaged, shattered, cracked, or broken, they can handle the job. If it's a cracked windshield, that's no problem. They'll come out to your location and they'll replace it for you, usually for free, and they'll work directly with the insurance to take it where they're headed. They'll come out to wherever you are, school, home, work, it does not matter. Absolute Glass will come out and take care of the job. Now, if you're at home, you're looking to increase the value of your home, you can do that with new windows and mirrors. And Absolute Glass will take care of that for you too. Windows, mirrors, shower enclosures. I say it all the time. If you can see through it, Ray and Marianne at Absolute Glass can do it. So check them out online at absoluteglassinc.com. That's online at absoluteglassinc.com.
Well, things have picked up this morning. We're starting to Monday a little bit on the highways. Bush River Road near Green Pines Road. Also, saying Bush River Road at St. Andrews Road. I-20 westbound, hitting exit 70. A report of an accident there. Again, that's I-20 westbound approaching exit 70. And Ramblin' Road between Highway 302 and South Pine Street. Your forecast, it's going to be a warm one this week. 94 for the high today, and we are looking at 92 on tomorrow and Wednesday. Afternoon or evening thunderstorms are a distinct possibility, but it is already warming up pretty well this morning. 79, but it already feels like 85 here on 107.5 The Game.
Our coverage of SEC Media Days brought to you by Lawyer Lisa. Need to talk estate planning, elder law, elder care, or probate? Call Lawyer Lisa 803-563-5163 or go to lawyerlisa.com. Preston Thorne, we had a pretty fun weekend in sports. A lot of stuff happened, and it's time for you to give out your superlatives.
And Roses with Preston Thorne on the early game, 107.5 The Game.
All right, Elijah. All right, Jen. We have Thorns, Buds, and Roses for the middle of July, and today is going to be the Media Days edition. Days edition of Thorns, Buds, and Roses. I had a thorn earlier, but then a thorn landed on our desk earlier this show. Iron your shirts, fellas. It only takes another 10 minutes to get ready. You are the face of a franchise. You all are worth a lot of money right now. You are stepping into professionals. Part of being a professional is to look the part. If you were going out there and wearing your uniform on the field, I'm sure you would have your wristbands right and you have everything tucked in. But this is a representation of yourself, just like any other time. The picture that Gamecock Sports posted was not flattering to the fellas. We could have all done a better job. Somebody could have looked out on for them, maybe put their jackets on. So my thorns is Media Day fashion. I probably will have some more commentary coming back on that because I feel like some coaches are going to fail, and we'll see how this goes. So that was a thorn that landed on our desk earlier today. Iron shirts, fellas. Buds.
That's a lesson, life lesson.
Buds. Elijah, I would like for there to be, we're going to nip this in the bud, and we're going to cut off any coach who goes over our cliche limit. If they say a certain amount of cliches within a specified time, they just get cut off and the mic goes mute. And we can't hear anything else they say because they have reached the cliche limit. We have our cliche bingo, which we will work on. We will see the coaches and how reliant they are on cliches. I just want somebody to say something interesting.
For once.
Just say
somebody say something fun.
Something interesting. I'm going to be honest. That's why I kind of was starting to get into the Big 12 last year because those dudes are interesting. Gundy, Dion, who else is out there? Scott Frost, Rich Rod.
Scott Frost now, he's back.
Those dudes are interesting. I don't know how interesting anybody in the SEC is. When I'm looking through the list, Sam Pittman can be interesting when he's not neutered. He can be funny. Other than that, Shane could get on a roll. He can get on a heater if he's really aggravated about something. I think the wild card here is Lane. Lane, which one he's going to show up? I need the interesting Lane. I don't need the Lane that's meditated and yogaed out and all about Zen and I don't want that guy. I
need Agent of Chaos.
Yeah, we need Joey Stillwater in the building. That's who we need. Last but not least, I need 10 roses, Elijah.
10 of them.
10 roses. Short of a dozen, we need 10 of them. And these 10 roses are going to go to our Lord and Commissioner, Greg Sankey. This is his 10th year as the commissioner of the SEC. And during this time period, boy, has the SEC blown up. Oklahoma and Texas, media rights deals, college football expansion, world domination, I'm sure is somewhere on his checklist. Greg Sankey is the dude. And I'm going to be honest, I look forward to hearing him speak. He's somebody who I really appreciate. And I'm not saying, Greg, I know you're doing great with the SEC, man, but listen, you might have bigger and better goals in front of you. I don't know. I'm just putting this out there, Greg. I like hearing you speak. I think you're very level-headed. I think you're very mission focused. You did a great job with the SEC during COVID, leading us through that difficult time. I like Greg Sankey a lot. So 10 roses to Greg Sankey. I'm looking forward to hearing what he has to say today. Elijah, those are our thorns, buds, and roses for the media days edition.
I love it. Yes, and he speaks here in about 40 minutes, maybe. So here coming up very soon, we'll get to hear Greg Sankey here at Media Days. Do you think he's going to touch on maybe the expansion of an SEC schedule? You think we have a lot of 9-game discourse today?
I don't think there'll be a lot, not during this conversation right here. I think he'll mostly focus on the forward progress of the conference. He'll focus on the financial gains. He will probably mention the unsettled waters that we're coming to in a new era of college sports. But I just like hearing Greg Sankey speak. I think he's very reasonable. I think he's very determined, and has always put this conference in the forefront. I have no complaints with Greg Sankey. He is making his villain turn to the rest of the world, but I guess one of those things where I'm glad he's on our side.
Yeah, I think his approval rating amongst administrators in the SEC got to be 100%, right?
Yeah, because you know
he's
what?
Making everybody money.
All they need to do is go check their bank accounts and say, "Thank you, Greg. We appreciate you."
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people complain about the competition by adding in Texas and Oklahoma, and that's one of the things where if you want to complain about like the competition level in the SEC, I don't think you really can because you're benefiting a lot financially from it. So it's kind of a double-edged thing, but ultimately I think that is better for everyone in the league to have that profile kind of elevated the way it has.
Speaking of Texas, really quickly, I spent this past weekend in Austin, Texas, and it was very interesting town. I was very, very surprised by the town, but I could not have wrapped up my Austin, Texas visit in no better way than to be going through the airport yesterday, and I see a medium tall man, 6'3" very skinny, and he had on a quarter zip with a Texas logo on there. So I think this guy looks very familiar. It was the brother of Eli and Peyton. It was Cooper Manning.
Stop it.
No way.
Going through the airport. I had to give him just a little soother, like, "Hey, I know who you are. I'm not going to stop you, but I know who you are." But it was interesting to see that guy walking through that airport at that time. And Austin's such a big town that nobody was really paying him any attention. So it was kind of cool. So yes.
Wow.
I don't know where Cooper was going yesterday, but I did see him in the Austin airport. So I felt like that was apropos of the time.
Wow.
And I guess of all the Manning brothers, he might be the one who's most able to walk around incognito.
Yeah, I wanted to tell everybody, like, hey, that's the dad of the number one quarterback in the SEC. Does nobody else know what's going on here?
Right.
Nobody else said anything.
That's really cool. Wow.
Was.
Yeah. Were you tempted at all to go up to him, or
I
you just
did.
like, yeah?
I kind of did. I just wanted to be like, hey, man, how you
salute.
Yeah. That's all I wanted to do. But I kind of gave him a look like, hey, I know who you are. You know, let's keep it moving. But he was cool, and he was just walking through the airport, unencumbered, walking solo. I'm not sure where he was going, but yeah, Austin. I'm not sure. I haven't looked at any future schedules, but Austin's a cool town, solid town.
That's what I've heard. I've heard it is a fantastic town. Have you been, Jen?
I have not. We actually, a friend of my daughter, she actually is there right now and living it and loving it.
It's definitely it's
a young people town.
If you're a young person,
that
is a town you need to get to. I would say.
Yes, lots to do. There's a riverfront or something.
There's a riverfront. There's a couple of different entertainment districts. One entertainment district down in 6th Street, more akin to like Bourbon Street, where I had definitely aged out of that demo. But if I was, if I was Elijah, I might could go there.
Go in there. Okay.
Yeah, it went down to 6th Street. Like, it's loud. It smells. There's people.
Yep.
I'm good on this, but I understand what was happening there. Yeah, I would give Austin 2 thumbs up as a town for sure.
Yeah, that's on my list.
Young man's game, he says. But yeah, also on my list as well. So who knows? Maybe
an early game road trip. There's a reason to go down there.
I would love to go back.
Yeah.
There is, absolutely. Maybe the SEC scheduling gods can help us out with that. The Gamecocks are here in Atlanta today, but so is Vanderbilt. We'll get a little bit of insight into the team in Nashville who appears on South Carolina's SEC slate as normal. But are they overhyped this year? How good is Diego Pavia really? We'll discuss when the early game continues.
It's time for Thorns, Buds, and Roses with Preston Thorn on the early game. 107.5 The Game.
Bush River Road near Green Pines Road, an accident there. Also, Bush River Road at St. Andrews Road. I-20 westbound approaching exit 70, you'll find a tie-up. And Ramblin' Road between Highway 302 and South Pine Street, also an accident. And that forecast, yep, it's going to be a warm one again today. 94 for the high, 92 tomorrow and Wednesday. Those chances for afternoon thunderstorms will be popping up each and every day. And we are starting off the morning certainly a little bit on the warm side because we're already up to 79, but heat index is already up to 84 on 107.5. The Game.
Our SEC Media Days coverage brought to you by Lexington Discount Homes. Lexington Discount Homes, one of South Carolina's leading retailers of manufactured homes. Go to LexingtonDiscountHomes.com to find out more. It's pretty simple. Now, Carolina's speaking today, but so is LSU, Ole Miss, and Vanderbilt. So joining us right now, making his debut on these airwaves, my old boss, Chase McCabe from 102.5 The Game in Nashville joins us. Chase, long time no see. Good to see you here, partner.
It's good to see you, man. I'm so proud of you. And I know it had to be easy to go from the game to the game. So you didn't really have to.
I just changed one number.
Yeah, exactly. So that must have been easy for you. But yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, honestly, last year wouldn't have been much to talk about. I think Vanderbilt was probably one of the least interesting teams in all of college football going into 2024. But one man kind of changed that a little bit. I think it's probably made lives for you guys there in Nashville a lot more fun getting to keep up with what may be one of the biggest wild cards in the league now.
It's so cool to have a rock star, the guy that kind of has that persona like Diego Pavia, the Vanderbilt quarterback, and he had the lawsuit that ended up getting the extra year of eligibility, so he's back, and I think that's what is so positive for Vanderbilt is for the first time in a long time they actually have something to build on. Clark Lee joined. We taped with him earlier because he was on Radio Row very early this morning, and one of the things he said is they're like top 10 in the country returning guys, which is something you don't really hear about in today's college football. I think that's huge for them, especially when you can build around Pavia and some of the other offensive weapons that they have. And, I think having Jerry Kill, Tim Beck on the coaching staff have been huge additions for Clark Lee. So I like what they're doing, and Pavia is just going to be fun to watch again.
Now, Chase, I'm gonna have to talk to you off air so I can get the full scouting report on Elijah. We won't do that on air, but we're gonna need to get the full scouting report on Elijah. We'll get to that later.
I'll give you the dirt. Don't worry.
That's what I'll need. But I guess my question is, and I'm always very interested in how teams see us being South Carolina. How do fan bases see us in South Carolina? How do they view us? How did they view the games last year and previously? Because we know how we see other teams. We kind of get a perception, but I'm very interested in how the Vandy fan base sees us in South Carolina.
Well, I got to tell you, I have been very, very surprised by South Carolina. And look, I'm sure you guys have too. I mean, I
Yes.
thought that, when Shane Beamer was hired, I was kind of like, okay, let's see. I mean, I know why, obviously the pedigree there, but and then it didn't look good for a while, and then all of a sudden it looked really good. And so I've been very impressed. And when Vanderbilt went there last year, I was thinking, all right, this could be a pretty good game. And South Carolina just was like, nope, not in our house. It's not gonna happen. So I've been very impressed by them. I think a lot of fans are kind of like me, are like pleasantly surprised to see the turnaround that program has. But I think where Vanderbilt and South Carolina are very similar is, okay, you've shown us a little something. You've shown us that you want to play with the big boys. Can you do it again now that the big boys have seen what you can do? Like I go back to Vanderbilt. They beat Alabama last year. That was huge. Biggest win in program history. Can you go do it again in Tuscaloosa after they now have game film on Pavia, on the offense? Can you adjust enough? And I think the same goes for South Carolina and what Coach Beamer's trying to do.
Yeah, and that's the one thing, I guess, the biggest hurdle, I guess, for South Carolina in terms of replicating that is the offensive coordinator change. But you alluded to it. I mean, Tim Beck's still here. Jerry Kill still in Nashville. And I think the biggest thing, too, is Diego Pavia's back with Eli Stowers. And I don't think enough is made about Stowers coming back because we laid out some numbers earlier in this show about why he might be the best all-around tight end in the SEC right now. And I think he's maybe one of those guys that not talked about enough when it comes to projecting what Vanderbilt can actually be, trying to follow up a year like they had last year.
Yeah, and that's a really good point because I think Stowers is going to be, everybody's going to look at Pavia. Everybody's going to talk about Pavia, and rightfully so. Stowers, I think, is going to get even more notoriety this year, based on kind of the build that he had last year. He's fun to watch, those two together. What Beck and the offense, kind of the scheme that they run. Clark Lee was talking about that with us this morning of, being a defensive-minded coach. It's kind of fun for him to watch them work, them kind of get in the kitchen and cook because it makes it exciting. When was the last time you could say that a Vanderbilt offense was exciting? I mean, it's been a very long time.
Jay Cutler, maybe?
Yeah, Cutler. I mean, Jordan Rodgers with James Franklin. I mean, yeah, like those guys. But it's been a while, and so that's what I think makes it fun. But I haven't looked at any mock drafts because I spent too much time with that with the Titans having the number 1 overall pick. So I don't know where Stowers, is projected right now. But I would guess he's going to be playing on Sundays, after the career he's had.
Yeah, I would say so. I have, so you don't have to. I have looked. I've seen, I think McShay had him late first.
Okay. All right.
So McShay's got him maybe one of the last 10 picks, I guess, in the first round of the draft.
And think about that because, Elijah, the program. You've been around it. What that does for Vanderbilt. If you get a first-round pick at tight end, you have a guy that fought the NCAA to come back to Vanderbilt. When he had offers to transfer, a lot of people were like, oh, he's going to get his eligibility and then he'll transfer somewhere else. Mm-hmm. No, he stayed. He wanted to be at Vanderbilt. Obviously having, Stowers and having the coaching staff that they do, I think, influenced a lot of that. But it's Vandy's in a position where they can finally build on something. And like I said, it's been a very long time since they've been able to say that.
And I remember when I was there, we would talk a lot about just like the direction of the athletic department. It felt like they were kind of stuck in a bygone era.
Yep.
And were maybe kind of leaning too much upon academic prowess, and there was maybe a lack of advancement within the entire athletic department from the top down. But based off what they've done to the stadium, what they're doing to the stadium, the investment they're making in all of these different sports, the ability to now retain players, because going into last year, they lost 3/4 of the team, a good chunk of the team. It looked like Vanderbilt was in those programs that would never succeed in this era. In one short year, it looks like that paradigm has completely shifted.
It's changed so much. And that was another thing that Coach alluded to, was that he doesn't feel like he has – you're always selling the program, right? But he doesn't feel like he has to be like, no, this isn't what it used to be. This is what it is now. That there is a buy-in internally, and it starts with Candace Lee in the athletic department of, hey, we're not going to be same old Vandy anymore. We're putting money into athletics. My dad used to have the joke of, they'd get their check from the SEC and build a science building. That's gone. They're not doing that anymore. So, and the stadium looks awesome. I mean, that is the nicest that it's looked ever in my life. So what they're doing there, and Coach alluded that they're going to put the last nail in when they're putting the ball on the tee. I mean, it's coming right down to the wire, but it's gone from being the joke in the SEC of having floating scoreboards a few years ago with hanging from a crane to now they have one of the nicest, facilities. So it's that internal buy-in that they have had that has really changed things, and hopefully is changing the perception publicly.
Yeah, I'm excited for whenever they come to Columbia this year. I think it's going to be a fantastic game. Chase McCabe from 102.5 The Game, my former boss. He can't fire me anymore, but we can have fun sitting here in Atlanta. Chase, appreciate the time to stop by and hang out for a little bit.
Hey, thanks for having me. And again, congratulations to you and what you've done. I mean, I knew you were going to do great things, but you guys got a good one in Elijah. So thanks for having me.
All right, your check will be in the mail in 3 to 5 business days. Chase McCabe, everybody.
Appreciate
we'll go ahead and
Chase.
take a quick. Yeah, we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, Preston and I are going to put our Mike Singletary hats on because we want winners, and we'll give you the winners of the show to wrap up today's early game.
I want winners.
We talked about Vanderbilt football earlier, and Dylan Stewart and Cal Kennard made life hard for Vanderbilt last year. Life can be that way. It can be hard in many different ways, and if tax troubles are making life harder on you, well, look no further than the Ecton Law Firm. You don't need to let that happen anymore. Let the stress of taxes be taken care of by John Ecton, his law firm. Set up a free consultation today, 803-771-9800, because they have a local team that's resolving your income or business tax issues for good. And at the Ecton Law Firm, they understand these challenges that you or your businesses can face, and that's why John Ecton and this team are perfectly equipped to offer you peace of mind you might not normally have. They can help you escape that pesky IRS maze. So take that first step today to a worry-free life. Call the Ecton Law Firm, 803-771-9800, or visit EctonLawFirm.com. That's ECTON lawfirm.com. Winners and losers here at SEC Media Days for the entire week. It's day one. Shane Beamer will be speaking shortly, speaking with the local media gaggle. As we speak right now, Greg Sankey is approaching the podium in a little over 10 minutes. Our Media Day coverage brought to you by Lawyer Lisa, Game Day, Men's Health, and Lexington Discount Homes. But right now, it's time to assign winners for this show in particular, the show that started all of Media Days here. I want to give us that credit, Preston Thorne, even if it's not properly attributed. I'm going to give us that credit. So, Preston, it's time for us to give out winners. Who you got?
Eli Stowers. Stowers. How do you pronounce
Stowers?
Eli Stowers.
I think Stowers.
I'm going to go with him as a winner because I'm going to be very honest with you, Tyler. I mean, Elijah, before we entered into this conversation, I was completely unaware of your game. And now, as we talked in some of the commercial breaks, I've been going through and looking at some highlights, looking at some edits. Oh, Duke can go. And I'll be honest, I was not familiar with him. So for me to jump on my radar, Eli Stowers from Vanderbilt, the tight end, he is now a guy that I will be watching a lot closer.
Yeah, I'm infatuated with how he plays, man. Again, we broke down some of the numbers earlier in the show. If you missed Old Man versus Analytics at 6:30, highly recommend going back on our YouTube page and watching that because Stowers not only lined up 21% of the time on the line of scrimmage, he was in the slot over 70+% of the time and gets over 7.5 yards after the catch. I mean, he's an all-around weapon and an exceptional pass blocker as well. Didn't have a lot of pass blocking snaps, but in those snaps, he did grade out at 75. So a very capable blocker, a very good all-around tight end, and a guy that first team All-SEC, I could probably see myself putting him on my ballot whenever we fill those in a couple days. But I think my big winner today, Preston, Bruce Ellington, because we did First Down for Your Life, and we have a lot of Bruce Ellington on here. Right now, Bruce Ellington has 4, which is the most of anybody. We have a lot of names on here, a lot of Pharaoh Cooper in here as well. But Bruce Ellington's the only one. Yeah, Pharaoh Cooper, if you're Steve Spurrier. But Bruce Ellington's the only guy on this list, Preston Thorne, that not only would I trust on First Down for Your Life, I would also trust on three-pointer for your life as well.
That is a unique distinction. And obviously, he's from the Low Country. Shout out to Berkeley. Shout out to Monk's Corner down there. Yeah, that is a unique distinction. He can do pretty much whatever he wanted on any athletic field. Elijah, I saw with my own 2 eyes, I saw Bruce Ellington run a 2-minute drill out of the wishbone where he did not throw the ball. He only ran the ball, and his team successfully completed a 2-minute drill. I saw that with my own 2 eyes.
That's old school right there, man. That's not just running the wishbone is one thing, but then just continuously press the triangle button to just run the same play over and over and over again and beat you down with it.
Yes.
Is another thing.
Yes,
in general.
I saw that with my own 2 eyes. Yeah, that's a winner. And unfortunately, I might have to take the loser bracket on that because when I was going through my wide receivers for a First Down for Your Life, he was not on my list. He somehow slipped through my graph, so I'm gonna have to take the L on that one.
Yeah, you might have to. And admittedly, I forgot a couple of them as well. But when I came up with the exercise last night, Brian Edwards is the first thing that popped up because I'm like, oh, great contested catch guy. So I'll stick with Brian Edwards. It's that way. It's a little outside the box. Another winner for today's show, the Atlanta Falcons, because maybe they're becoming Preston Thorne's favorite team, and we do have a texter on the Firehouse Subs text line that is trying to convince Preston to rise up, if you will. It says Gamecock connections to the Falcons are John Abraham, Patrick DeMarco, and now Joshua Simon. Is that intriguing you a little bit, Preston?
There are some potential entries. Also, Dante Robinson played with the Falcons for a little while, so I was following them. So, yes, there are several connections that we could have, but they are still the Falcons.
I have Tyler Head sitting here with me right now. He's going to take it from here, and maybe we'll have Tyler hit you up about the true fundamentals of Falcons fandom. Preston, fantastic job today. Jen, fantastic job. Should we do this tomorrow?
We'll be back tomorrow.
Let's do it tomorrow, 6 a.m. We'll see you then. You have been listening to The Early Game.